This week's Q&A video is sponsored by Best Fiends Forever. It's the second game in the Best Fiends trilogy featuring the same characters and story, but it's a totally different kind of game than the first. This is a highly addictive clicker adventure game where you slap, collect, and level up pretty much everything in the game while trying to get as far as you can, as fast as you can. Check out the new game by following the link in the description to a completely free download. Personally, I'm new to the Best Fiends series, but Best Fiends Forever was a fun introduction. It's completely free to play, and it's actually quite a bit more complex and nuanced, and I mean that in a good way. So take a look for yourself, and thank you to Best Fiends Forever for supporting the channel. What's up guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Before jumping into questions, I have two quick little announcements about some collaborations I recently did. First up is John Solo. He was kind enough to ask me to help him out on a theory video of his regarding Luke and Anakin's ages when they began their Jedi training and how it affected them. Second was a guest spot on Legends Library. It's a podcast all about Legends Star Wars books, and we talked about one of my favorite books of all time, X-Wing Rogue Squadron, so be sure to check that out as well. I put links to both in the description. Starting with the Patreon questions, the Screen Avenger wants to know when we're going to get an Episode 8 trailer. Well, I'd like to know that too. So obviously I don't know when that's going to happen, but I don't think we're going to see anything this year, especially not until Rogue One has been released, because Disney's not going to do anything to derail the Rogue One hype. Maybe we would see a little teaser of something like connected with Rogue One or immediately after, but last year we didn't get anything for Rogue One until The Force Awakens Blu-ray was out and like everything was over and done with. So I expect we'll get some tease of some sort before the Rogue One Blu-ray is released, but I'm not expecting anything this year at least. John Gregory Kars asks if I think an Old Republic Netflix series or otherwise would be more likely now that we're starting to get some pre-Phantom Menace content, like the Yoda comics and the Darth Maul comics that are about to come out. I do think that a Netflix series is kind of inevitable. So I looked up when Daredevil started, and it was 6 years after Disney bought Marvel. So if it's going to be Star Wars The Old Republic or whatever it might be, we still might be quite a few years off from seeing anything happen on Netflix. But I do hope that if they do something about The Old Republic, they would save it for Netflix, because I think the maturity that Netflix offers, I think that's a good fit for the Old Republic series. Henrik Christensen has some questions about Jyn's possible Kyber Crystal that we've seen in the latest Rogue One trailers, why it isn't colored, and how all that works. So, in the new canon, Kyber Crystals are translucent until they are bonded with by a Jedi or Sith or some Force user. It's not an automatic thing where, like, if a Jedi were to just pick up a crystal, it would change to a blue color, and then if he handed it off to a Sith, it would automatically change to red. It's not something that happens just automatically. There has to be intent there. But regardless, I don't think that Jyn's Kyber Crystal came from a Jedi or anyone. I think it's probably just from her father's research, because he was involved in Kyber Crystal research. Building off of that, Daniel Charland asks if the new canon Kyber Crystal rules kind of limit the colors that we can see in Star Wars as far as lightsabers go. I would guess no. Blue and green and red, they seem to be the most prevalent colors. I don't really know why, but I mean, we have seen cases of yellow, or like Ahsoka's is like a greenish yellow, and we've seen purple, white, even an orange one in the Darth Vader comics. So I think that there will be more colors coming out down the line. It's just going to be that they're very, very rare, and they'll probably be a big deal when we do see them. Matthew Hopkins wants to know if I think the Han Solo movie will have a unique score, and I think that's a really interesting question, because I do think that the Han Solo film is going to be the first movie that will have a very different tone. Based on the directors, I do think it's going to be very heavily comedic, or like an action comedy. But I never put any thought into how that would affect the music, and I think it probably will. I don't think it's going to be like a comedic score, but definitely more lighthearted, probably. I think I agree with you that it will stand out musically from the rest of the films. That's it for patron questions this week. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, as always, go back to Patreon in our weekly Q&A thread, and I left you a written response. But on to YouTube questions. Brett GB asks if I think Luke is going to have his green lightsaber in Episode 8. And yes, I think he will. I think he's going to fight with it. I feel like if he just inexplicably didn't have it, or had just gotten rid of it at some point, it's just an added element of confusion that's not needed. Unless he was just like trying to get rid of all ties of the Jedi as he went into hiding, he may have like thrown it off a cliff somewhere, but I expect he's going to have it. I expect he'll fight, and no one wants to, well, it could be cool to see him build a new lightsaber, but I think people would want to see the old green one. We want to have that connection to the old trilogy, so yeah, I expect he will have it. Golden Bomber 32 wants to know if we're going to see any new First Order ships. Yeah, I think we're going to see new ships on both sides, or when I say new, it's pretty much been confirmed we're going to get a Resistance A-Wing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a First Order Interceptor. That could be cool. They've already foreshadowed First Order walkers of some sort, so I'm expecting we're going to get new vehicles on both sides, but what would be really cool is if, yeah, we saw like a totally new TIE design. Let's see like the Defender in a live action film for the first time. That would be cool, especially with like the black and red color scheme. I'd love to see something like that. Like, let's bring in a Legends TIE fighter and make it canon in Episode 8. That'd be awesome. Edward Keane asks who I personally want Snoke to be, and I know I've answered this before, but I don't think it's been in a Q&A video, so I'll cover it now. I want Snoke to be a completely new character. I don't think he's Plagueis or Mace Windu or any of these others. I think that they're leading up to some sort of identity reveal in Aftermath, and from what I can gather, he's something completely new. He's not involved with the Sith, and I kind of like that. I want a new threat. Let's not bring in the Sith at all. Let's explore some other aspect of the dark side of the Force. That, to me, is more interesting. Let's cover new ground instead of retreading old. Daniel S., again, every week you ask a great question, and it gets a ton of likes. So this week you ask if I think that Rebels would benefit from having multi-episode arcs, kind of like the Clone Wars did. Personally, I kind of like the way it is now, where occasionally we'll get longer episodes, usually the premieres or the finales. I'd rather get one longer story told in 1 week instead of having to wait weeks in between like a 3-arc story. But that being said, I do think it would be cool if we got like 3 episodes in a row with Thrawn in them, and then 3 episodes in a row of Darth Maul. I could see it going both ways. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I don't know that having the multi-episode arcs, for me, would make it any better or worse than it currently is. The Pimp Goose asks what my favorite Star Wars fan film is. For nostalgia's sake, I need to go with the first one I ever saw, and beyond that, it was like the first internet video I ever saw. It was so long ago, but Troops, the Stormtrooper Cops parody, I thought that was amazing. I thought it was hilarious. I don't even remember how old I was when I saw it. It had to be like 13. I mean, it was 15 years ago, at least. That thing is always going to be hilarious to me. I also really like the Ryan vs. Dorkman lightsaber fights. Those really inspired me back in high school. It made me want to learn how to make the lightsabers in After Effects, and we made our own little lightsaber fights that were garbage. They're terrible, but they were so much fun to make. More recently, I would say the Darth Maul Apprentice fan film and Hoshino that came out like 2 weeks ago. Both of those were stunning. The effects in Hoshino were amazing, like movie quality in my opinion, so check all of those out. That's all the time for questions I have today. If you want to leave one for next week, just put it in the comments below or follow the link over to Patreon and become a patron. It's just $1 a month, and every week we have a Q&A thread. You're guaranteed a written response among other bonuses, and the combined donations really help support the channel. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.